Tyler Lang had spent 7 years of his life building ironwood gear into one of the most trusted names in the outdoor industry. As the lead product designer, he had poured his heart into every piece of gear. Backpacks that balanced weight perfectly, jackets that adapted to extreme weather without compromising mobility. His designs were functional, practical, and, most importantly, they worked. They solved real problems for real people. But all of that changed the day Emma Steele walked into the picture. A former high-fashion designer, Emma was hired as Ironwood's new creative director. From the moment she stepped into her role, it was clear that she had a different vision for the company. She wanted sleek, modern designs that could fit into the glossy pages of magazines. Emma wanted Ironwood to become more about aesthetic appeal and less about practicality. For the first time in years, Tyler felt a shift in the air. Tyler had always designed with a philosophy taught to him by his grandfather: form follows function. His grandfather had been a master woodworker, and he taught Tyler that the beauty of a piece was born from its utility, not its superficial appearance. Tyler had carried that belief with him throughout his career at Ironwood. His designs weren't just about looking good. They were about making outdoor adventures safer, easier, and more comfortable for people who truly relied on their gear. But Emma didn't see it that way. She came from a world of runways and photo shoots, where the image was everything. Functionality, that was secondary. Tyler's designs, once celebrated for their rugged durability, were suddenly deemed outdated. The very things that had made Ironwood great were now being criticized as too utilitarian and not forward-thinking enough. Tyler had sensed this was coming for months. The company's direction was shifting, but he never imagined it would end like this. On a quiet Thursday morning, Tyler was summoned to Emma's office. He had been there before, but today felt different. Heather, the human resources manager, was already seated beside Emma, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. "Tyler, we need to talk," Emma began, her voice calm but firm. Tyler stood there, his mind racing. He knew what was coming, but it didn't make it any easier. He nodded, keeping his expression neutral. His heart was pounding, but he had learned over the years to keep his emotions in check. "I've been reviewing your recent designs," Emma continued, her words like daggers. "They don't align with where we need to go as a company. We need someone who understands the latest trends, someone who can bring fresh ideas to the table." Tyler's throat tightened as she slid the termination papers across the desk. He could feel his blood run cold. His 7 years of hard work, his countless nights spent perfecting every detail, all leading to this moment. It was over. "The direction Ironwood is heading in is different from the work you've been doing. Your designs just lack the innovation we need moving forward," Emma said, her perfectly manicured nails tapping rhythmically against the desk. Tyler didn't say a word. He had seen this coming. He had felt it in the way meetings had changed under Emma's leadership. The focus was no longer on creating functional, well-made products for the rugged outdoors. Now it was all about the look, the style, and the image. His designs, which once brought in millions of dollars in revenue and earned Ironwood trust among serious outdoor enthusiasts, were suddenly irrelevant. Emma continued to speak, but Tyler tuned her out. He couldn't focus on her words anymore. He could only think of the years he dedicated to this company, the hours spent testing prototypes, and the satisfaction of knowing that his designs helped people conquer the wild. He had made Ironwood what it was, but now that didn't seem to matter. "I'm sorry, Tyler," Emma said, her voice now tinged with something resembling sympathy, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I really am. We're just heading in a different direction."
Tyler swallowed hard, but he kept his face neutral. He took the papers, signed them without a second thought, and stood up. "Thank you for the opportunity," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. As he walked out of Emma's office for the last time, he felt like a part of him was leaving with it. The building, once a place filled with purpose and pride, now felt hollow. He packed his sketchbooks and unplugged his tablet, each action a painful reminder of everything he had built and lost in the blink of an eye. Driving home that afternoon, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had settled deep in his chest. Ironwood had become a place he no longer recognized, a place where his work was no longer valued. He had given everything for this company, blood, sweat, and tears, and now he was being cast aside for a glossy magazine aesthetic. When Tyler got home, he dropped his bags on the floor and sank into his chair. The weight of the moment hit him all at once, but then something else stirred inside him. It wasn't just the loss he felt. It was the hunger for something more. He sat at his drafting table and spread out his rejected designs. They were the same designs Emma had dismissed as too experimental. As he looked over each concept, he realized something. These weren't just ideas that Ironwood had turned down. These were the future of outdoor gear, gear that would solve real problems for people who needed it most. They were bold, innovative, and everything Emma said they weren't. But Tyler still believed in them. Tyler's phone buzzed, breaking his thoughts. It was a message from Ryan, an old colleague who had moved to Summit Gear, a rising competitor to Ironwood. The message was short, but to the point. Tyler, we've seen your work. We need someone who gets it. Got any designs you're ready to share? Tyler stared at the screen for a moment. This could be his chance to build something new, something better. He had nothing left to lose. With a deep breath, he began to type. I've got just the designs for you. And just like that, Tyler Lang was ready for his next chapter.
The days following his dismissal from Ironwood were a blur. Tyler didn't know what to expect next, but as the evening wore on, the weight of his decision to leave Ironwood started to settle in. His apartment felt quieter now, almost too still, like a space that was waiting for something to happen. He had no job, no projects, and most importantly, no direction. But in the silence, something inside him began to stir. For the first time in years, he felt free. Tyler had built his career on a set of values that had guided him since he was a child. Functionality over form, utility over trends. The work he'd created at Ironwood had been his legacy. But now it felt like he was working for someone else's vision, someone who didn't understand the purpose behind the products. He ran his hands through his hair and stared out the window at the city lights. For the first time in years, he had the chance to build something entirely new. A fresh start. No longer tied to a brand or a vision that didn't fit his own. His phone buzzed again. Tyler glanced down and saw the message from Ryan. His old colleague at Summit Gear had been following his exit from Ironwood. Tyler had shared a few of his design ideas with Ryan in the past, and the man had always been impressed with Tyler's commitment to solving real problems with his gear. Ryan had moved to Summit Gear several years ago, and the brand was starting to make waves in the industry. Summit's designs were known for being practical yet innovative, much like the designs Tyler had once created at Ironwood. The message was simple. Tyler, we've seen your work. We need someone who gets it. Got any designs you're ready to share? Tyler's heart skipped a beat. It was the opportunity he hadn't known he was waiting for. He stood up, walking over to his drafting table, and began to spread out the rejected designs that had once been dismissed by Emma and Ironwood. There they were, 12 concepts, each one meticulously crafted to solve specific issues faced by outdoor enthusiasts. Weatherproof jackets that didn't compromise mobility, modular backpacks that allowed for adaptability, camping gear that took functionality to a whole new level. They had all been deemed too experimental, but Tyler still believed in them. He typed back quickly, I've got designs. Let's talk. Ryan's reply came moments later. Let's do this. Send them over. Tyler knew that sending these designs out was a gamble. They had been rejected by Ironwood after all, and he had no guarantee that Summit Gear would be any more open-minded. But in his gut, he knew these ideas were the future of outdoor gear. The world didn't need more pretty, flashy backpacks and jackets. It needed products that worked. By the time the sun set, Tyler had refined the 6 designs he thought were the strongest. He didn't change much. The ideas had always been solid. But he polished the presentations, added clearer explanations of the functionality behind each one, and fine-tuned every detail. He poured hours into making sure the designs were as perfect as possible. At midnight, he emailed the 6 designs to Ryan, along with a brief note. These are the ones I believe in. I've spent years refining these concepts, and I know they'll make a real difference. Tyler sat back in his chair and stared at the screen for a moment, the silence of the night wrapping around him. It had been a long time since he'd felt this kind of excitement about his work. This wasn't just about creating something beautiful, it was about creating something that had a purpose. Something that could change the way people experienced the outdoors. He woke up the next morning to an email from Ryan. These are exactly what we've been looking for. We want to meet you. Can you be here at 10 a.m.? Tyler didn't hesitate. He quickly made plans to head over to Summit Gear's headquarters across town. As he showered and dressed, he found himself smiling. For the first time since leaving Ironwood, he felt a spark of hope. Summit Gear's office was a far cry from the sterile, polished design of Ironwood's headquarters. The atmosphere was casual but focused, a space cluttered with materials, prototype gear, and design sketches. When Tyler arrived, Ryan greeted him warmly and led him into a conference room where Sarah, the creative director, was waiting. Sarah didn't waste any time. "Tyler, we've been looking at your work for years, and I've got to say, we need someone like you on our team. We're working on a new all-weather gear line, and your designs are exactly what we need." Tyler felt a wave of relief wash over him. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, the chance to bring his designs to life with a company that understood the value of functionality. "Let's make it happen," Tyler said, smiling for the first time in days. Sarah nodded. "Great, we're looking to fast-track the production of this collection. We need your input, your expertise. How soon can you start?" Tyler didn't even think twice. "I'm available now." By the end of the meeting, Tyler was officially on board with Summit Gear. As he walked out of the conference room, he could already see the future taking shape. This wasn't going to be like Ironwood. Summit Gear valued practicality and real-world performance over trends, and Tyler felt an immediate sense of belonging. He spent the next few days diving into the project. It wasn't just about designing products, it was about creating gear that would change the way people experienced the outdoors. It was the kind of work that fueled his passion, and for the first time in months, Tyler felt alive with possibility. And just like that, Tyler Lang was back in the game. But this time, it was on his terms. Tyler Lang's first few weeks at Summit Gear were nothing short of a whirlwind. The sense of purpose he had been missing since his departure from Ironwood returned almost immediately. At Summit, every meeting, every design session felt like an opportunity to create something meaningful. He no longer had to fight for his ideas to be heard. Here, his voice was respected, his vision embraced. The project he was tasked with leading was the new all-weather gear line, which Summit Gear had been quietly developing for months. It was a chance to refine and perfect the kinds of designs that Tyler had long believed were the future of outdoor gear. Modular, adaptable systems that could be customized to different environments and conditions. No more one-size-fits-all jackets or clunky backpacks. Tyler's designs focused on function, performance, and real-world utility, and Summit was ready to bring them to life. His first day with the team was spent going over the designs he had submitted months earlier, refining them and adding new ideas to the mix. As Tyler discussed each concept with the design team, it became clear that Summit was as committed to solving practical problems as he was. Together, they began to shape the final collection, which they would soon name the Summit Series. The series would include several interconnected pieces: a modular backpack system, all-weather outerwear with removable components, and accessories designed for comfort and efficiency in the wild. The team moved quickly. They worked long hours, tweaking prototypes and testing materials. For Tyler, the work felt like a return to his roots, the kind of design process he had been missing. They weren't just making gear that looked good for a photo shoot. They were building gear that people would rely on in the harshest environments. But even as Summit made great strides in the development of the Summit series, Tyler couldn't entirely shake the feeling of being watched. It wasn't paranoia, it was reality. Just a week into his new position, he received an unexpected call from Mark, a former colleague at Ironwood who still worked in production there. "Tyler," Mark's voice was low and urgent, "you've got to hear this. The new designs you helped create, the ones Emma dismissed, she's pushing them now. But here's the kicker. They can't be manufactured the way she promised. They're a disaster. The materials don't flex the way they should, and the prototypes are coming in 2 pounds heavier than expected." Tyler felt a pang of satisfaction mixed with disbelief. Ironwood, the company he had helped build, was floundering without him. He didn't respond immediately, but his mind was already working. It wasn't just that Emma was struggling, it was the fact that Ironwood was facing the consequences of their decision to reject his designs. He had known they would fail, but hearing the details confirmed it. "I've got to go," Mark added quickly. "Just watch your back, Tyler. Emma's claiming you sabotaged the transition. She's trying to shift the blame." Tyler's chest tightened as the weight of Mark's words hit him. Emma wasn't just moving on, she was actively trying to ruin his reputation. He didn't let it bother him for long, though. Summit Gear had made him an offer he couldn't ignore, an opportunity to create something revolutionary. he focused on what mattered most: bringing the Summit series to life. Over the next few weeks, the team worked relentlessly. Tyler spent long hours in the lab with engineers, adjusting designs, discussing production challenges, and overseeing the fine details that would make the Summit series stand out. It was a collaborative effort, and for the first time in years, Tyler felt the joy of creative freedom. He could see the end goal now. The Summit series would be a game-changer, a product line built to perform in the toughest conditions. One evening, as the team gathered around the conference table to review the final prototypes, Tyler felt a surge of pride. They had done it. They had created something that would redefine the market. Gear that combined adaptability with durability, designed for people who didn't care about trends, but who cared deeply about the gear they relied on. "Everything looks good," Sarah, the creative director, said as she looked over the final designs. "Let's move forward. But here's the thing. We want to get this on the market before Ironwood's next big launch." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "You're talking about the Elevation series, right?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly. They're planning to launch in September, but we want to beat them to it. If we get our marketing out now, we'll have a whole month of exclusive buzz." Tyler didn't hesitate. "Let's do it. We can move fast." And move fast they did. Within days, Summit Gear's production team was in full swing, assembling prototypes for the Summit series. Tyler worked around the clock, ensuring that every detail was perfect, that the designs not only looked good, but would work in the real world. He was the last one to leave the office each night, pushing the team to get everything right. He wanted the Summit series to be more than just a product line. It had to be a statement. Then, just as the first prototypes were ready to ship, Tyler received a text from an unexpected source, Peter, the production manager at Ironwood. "What did you do?" Peter's message read. "Elena's in full damage control mode. She's claiming you sabotaged the transition. They're trying to make it look like you didn't leave with proper documentation. And now she's panicking because her designs are falling apart." Tyler's stomach dropped. This wasn't just about moving on anymore. Elena was actively trying to ruin his career, trying to paint him as a villain to cover up her own failure. Tyler's fingers hovered over his phone for a moment before he typed back, "Don't worry, Peter. It's not my problem anymore." He wasn't going to let Ironwood or Elena drag him back into their mess. He had a new project to focus on, a new opportunity to prove that he could build something better, and the Summit series was about to do just that. As the final preparations for the Summit series launch came together, Tyler received an email from Summit's marketing team. They were planning a full-scale launch, and the buzz was already starting to build. Retailers were clamoring to get their hands on the prototypes. Industry insiders were speculating on what Summit Gear had in store. Tyler felt a sense of vindication, but he also felt something else, a sense of finality. The Summit series was more than just his designs. It was his chance to redefine his legacy and prove to the world that real design wasn't about following trends. It was about solving problems, making life better for people who relied on your work. The Summit series launched 2 weeks ahead of Ironwood's Elevation series. By the time the Elevation series hit the market, the Summit series was already making waves. Outdoor magazines praised it as revolutionary. Retailers were overwhelmed with orders. It was clear Tyler had made the right choice. His designs had found their place, and the world was taking notice. Tyler stood at the edge of the Summit Gear headquarters, looking out at the city skyline. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. He wasn't just another designer anymore. He was the creator of the Summit series, a product line that would change the way people experienced the outdoors. And as for Ironwood, Tyler didn't need to look back. The market had already spoken.